I have 9 first cousins. 8 of them are decent human beings I don't mind chatting with anytime we're in the same place together. 1 I have blocked on Facebook. This story isn't about why I've blocked him, but it's relevant for establishing a motive, because I was once asked to do a petty crime in exchange for carnal pleasure. It was not my cousin who made this offer. That was probably a poor way to arrange this tale. Let's start over. I hate my cousin. Not all of them, just the one. To make a long story that I've mostly blocked from conscious memory a short story, he was simply a constant source of torment in my childhood, like actual bring-you-to-tears emotional and verbal abuse torment. And he generally got away with it, not only without repercussions, but was often defended by the adults I was supposed to rely on for survival and as examples on how to act properly. I'm the one who got locked out of the house while he stood inside, shouting about how he was going to destroy things in my room and digging through my stuff so he could show me that he meant it. But then it's me who gets scolded and told I should just ignore him because he only wants attention. Thankfully, he mostly lived in Florida, but he periodically visited, as family does, and moved up to my hometown for a year or two when I was in 8th and 9th grade. As an early teen, I had 2 things that I did a lot: spend hours at the video store and develop crushes on women who had absolutely no interest in me. Sometimes I combined those things by having a crush on the woman working at the video store. If you've ever worked retail, you're likely familiar with the sort of customer that just hangs around in the store all day, not buying or shopping, but literally just hanging around and trying to start a conversation with the staff, while the staff tries to look as busy as possible in hopes this customer will leave. I was that person at my local video store. Here in the future, I understand how obnoxious that is. One female video store clerk seemed to genuinely not mind my presence, though, and we were kind of friends. I tried asking her out twice, but was declined both times. We weren't that good of friends. But here's where these 2 tales converge. One day, I found out that because of friends, this friendly video store employee had known and hung out with my nemesis cousin during his brief time living in the area. He had, in fact, stolen a pair of CDs from this woman when he moved back to Florida to live with his mom. I informed her that my dad was taking a final truckload of items down to his family, and I would be honored to go along and steal them back for her in exchange for a date. She said for that, she'd sleep with me, which absolutely blew my 14-year-old virgin mind. And so, I surprised my dad by asking if I could accompany him on this super long drive to a state I absolutely despise to go see a side of the family I've actively tried avoiding. I figured I could suffer through a weekend and swipe 2 CDs pretty easily, considering the reward. Once we arrived at our destination, I immediately began acting friendly to my cousin, whom I typically took great pains to stay away from. Eventually, we got to his bedroom, and I started my search for his CD collection. There was no shelf or rack of CDs to be seen, so I focused my efforts on finding one of those black binders of CDs in plastic pages. Each time he left the room, I took a quick glance in a different area, but was having no luck. Eventually, I just gave up and said, "Hey, what kind of music do you have?" Something I've never previously shown any interest in whatsoever, but he didn't seem to recognize my true motive and pulled his CD binder from a box of stuff that had yet to be unpacked. I next had to innocently flip through the pages, faking interest in whatever garbage music he liked while keeping an eye out for the 2 specific discs I was there for. And they were there. Casey and JoJo and the Godzilla soundtrack, just like she had said. Now I just needed to leave the binder out so that I could easily slip them out when alone and put them in my own bag. I laid down to sleep that night and went over my plan in my head. I was going to leave my bag in his bedroom when we were preparing to leave, so that I could then act like I'd forgotten it and run back into the room, alone, and take the CDs, place them in my bag, and head home. Naturally, going over the plan mentally caused me to start second-guessing it. And by the time we were ready to leave the next day, all I could think was that I'd made too big a deal about the binder and the CDs, that he's going to look in it and notice them missing before we can even get out the door. And it'll be pretty obvious who took them, and then I'll have to hand them back. It'll be this giant awkward thing, and I'll be demanded to explain why I took them, etc. And so I stood there in my cousin's bedroom alone, with the CD binder open on the bed, and my bag open next to it. Not really facing a moral dilemma, so much as trying to psych myself up to take a risk, steal from a thief, and return home to lose my virginity. It was about a week before I got to go to the video store again. I walked in like I always did, and wandered around until the store was empty, except for her and I. The moment of truth eventually came, and I walked up to the counter and revealed to her that I had completely failed to reacquire her stolen CD. She said, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That sucks." And then moved on to talking about something else. It seemed that the whole escapade was a much bigger deal for me than it was for her. It's quite likely, even if I had gotten the discs, she wouldn't have even remembered our unofficial deal. So what's the lesson in all of this? I have no idea. I guess if you're someone who often speaks with exaggerated phrasing for effect, be careful who you do it around, because somebody just might think you're sincere. Also, looking back now, I probably could have just bought her new copies of those extremely common albums.